My sister Lydia made sure everyone at her wedding knew I was the pathetic single one. She seated me at the outcast table, introduced me as still searching for someone, and even had her bridesmaids whisper about my sad love life. But when a mysterious guest leaned over and said, "Act like you're with me," everything changed, turning her perfect day into my unexpected revenge. If you've ever felt humiliated by family who think being single makes you less, hit that like button. Subscribe if you believe karma shows up in surprising ways, because this story proves the best revenge sometimes comes with a side of undeniable jealousy. The wedding hall glowed with golden lights and sparkling chandeliers, but all I could see was the table number in my hand. Table 12, the singles table, the reject table, the exact place Lydia had chosen. So everyone would notice her older sister was still alone. I'm Hannah, and I should probably explain how I became the family disappointment at my own sister's fairy tale wedding. Lydia and I had never been close, but our rivalry had turned toxic over the past year. Since she got engaged to Richard, a wealthy, successful investment banker, she'd made it her personal mission to remind me that I was 32 and still single. "Maybe you should try dating apps again," she sipped say at family dinners, her voice dripping with fake concern. "You can be picky forever." "Time sips running out, Hannah." Our mother, Diane, would nod softly while our father, Adam, changed the subject, but Lydia never let up. She seemed to find joy in my lack of a relationship, as if my single status somehow proved her own happiness. The morning of her wedding, she called me with what she called sisterly advice. "Hannah, honey, I know today might be hard for you," she said sweetly, "seeing everyone so happy and in love. Just try not to look too miserable in the photos, okay? And please don't spend the night talking to the bartender like you did at cousin Joanne Sepp's wedding." That should have been my first warning. When I arrived at the Grandview Manor reception hall, wearing a navy dress I'd spent weeks choosing, Lydia's maid of honor, Marion, greeted me with a clipboard and a smile that signaled bad news. "Oh, Hannah, let me show you to your table," she said, with that same sugary tone Lydia used. Table 12 was shoved into a back corner near the kitchen doors, where staff bustled in and out with trays of food. The other guests seated there were Lydia's single co-workers, who barely acknowledged me, and our elderly great-aunt Janet, who spent the evening complaining about the music and asking if I'd considered lowering my standards. The real humiliation came during the introductions. The reception was in full swing, when Lydia decided to parade me around like a cautionary tale. She grabbed my arm and steered me toward a group of Richard's wealthy relatives. "And this is my sister, Hannah," Lydia announced, arm locked around Richard Sepp's, like she was marking territory. "She Sepp's our little career woman, still focusing on work instead of finding someone special." They smiled politely, while heat crept up my neck. Mrs. Wellington, Richard's aunt, looked me over with clear pity. "Oh dear, don't worry," she said, patting my arm. "There's someone for everyone. Have you tried church groups? My nephew met his wife at a prayer circle." Lydia laughed, not kindly, but like someone enjoying the show. "Hannah Sepp's very independent. Aren't Sepp you, sis?" The way she said independent made it sound like a flaw. "I just haven't found the right person yet," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Well, you can wait forever," Richard Sepp's mother, Margaret, added. "My daughter waited too long, and now she sips 45 with fertility issues. Don't make the same mistake." For the next hour, I endured a parade of unsolicited dating advice. Joseph, Richard's business partner, suggested I lower my expectations. Christopher, a family friend, shared how his spinster aunt found love at 50 with a widower who had 6 kids. Even the photographer joined in, asking repeatedly if I had a +1 and looking confused when I said no. The breaking point came during the bouquet toss. "All the single ladies to the dance floor," the DJ called with overblown cheer. I tried to hide behind a pillar, but Marion spotted me and dragged me forward. Come on, Hannah, this could be your lucky day. I found myself surrounded by 20-something women giggling as Lydia prepared to throw her bouquet. They were Richard's younger cousins, fresh out of college with their whole lives ahead. Standing among them, I felt exposed. Lydia looked right at me, smirked and threw the bouquet in the opposite direction. A 24-year-old named Chloe caught it while the crowd cheered. Lydia hugged her and announced loudly, "Looks like Hannah will have to wait a little longer." The laughter that followed cut like glass. People looked at me with that mix of pity and relief that comes from seeing someone else embarrassed. I went back to my table, fighting back tears of rage and humiliation. This was supposed to be a celebration of love, but Lydia had turned it into a public teardown of my self-esteem. I was ready to leave, to disappear before Lydia saw me cry. I was gathering my purse when a deep voice quietly spoke behind me. "Act like you'd tour with me." I turned, startled, to see a man in a sharp charcoal suit. He was tall, about 6'2", with dark hair and a presence that naturally drew attention. His eyes were kind but focused, and there was something magnetic about the way he carried himself. "Excuse me?" I whispered. "Your sister just spent 10 minutes telling my business associate how worried she is about you being alone," he said, sliding into the chair beside me with ease. "Is Stem guessing you did instead ask her to share your private life with strangers?" He was right. Across the room, I spotted Lydia gesturing toward me as she spoke with Richard's colleagues, probably painting me as the sad, single sister. "You don't mind, do you?" he added, though his tone suggested the plan was already in motion. I shook my head, still surprised. For the first time that evening, I didn't feel invisible. "Anestim William," he said, extending his hand with a warm smile. "Richard Sepp's cousin from Boston, and you must be Hannah, the sister who apparently needs saving from spinsterhood." Despite everything, I laughed. "That Sepp's me, the family charity case." "Well, not anymore," he replied, his smile both reassuring and slightly mischievous. William draped his arm along the back of my chair, leaning in as if we'd known each other for years. Almost instantly, heads turned toward us. Lydia, mid-conversation with the planner, stopped when she saw. Her smile faltered before she excused herself and walked straight over, her dress trailing behind her. "Hannah," she said, voice higher than usual. "I didn't set no you knew William." "Old friends," William answered smoothly, his hand brushing mine on the table. "We lost touch, but you know how that goes." Lydia's eyes narrowed, her polished composure slipping. "Really? Hannah never mentioned you." "I prefer to keep my private life private," I said, finally finding my voice. "You know how I am about balance." The irony wasn't lost on me. Lydia had spent the whole evening announcing my single status, and now she was fishing for details about a relationship that didn't exist. "How wonderful," she said tightly. "How long have you two been reconnecting?" "Long enough," William replied with a smile that revealed nothing. Frustrated by the lack of answers, Lydia walked off. William leaned closer with a quiet chuckle. "She looks like she just bit into a lemon." I smiled. "She sips not used to being shut out of my life, or me stealing her spotlight." "Good," he said. "Let Seps keep her guessing." For the next hour, William played the role perfectly. He brought me drinks, laughed at my jokes, and brushed my hand just enough to make it look real, but more importantly, he listened. He asked about my work in marketing, my love for hiking, and my recent trip to Ireland. "You're not what I expected," he said in a pause between songs. "What did you expect?" "Based on your sister Sep's description, someone desperate and pathetic. Instead, I stem talking to someone smart, funny, and honestly, I can see why you stem single." "Because I have standards," I replied without thinking. He laughed, A warm, genuine sound that loosened something inside me. Good for you. By then, Lydia was openly staring, whispering to Marion, who kept sneaking glances. Richard's relatives, who had pitied me earlier, now watched William with clear approval, clearly aware of his status and wondering how I had managed to be with him. The revenge was sweeter than I imagined, but William wasn't done. When the band began slow songs, he stood and extended his hand. "Dance with me," he said. Not a question. On the dance floor, with his hand at my waist and mine on his shoulder, I felt the eyes of every guest who had given me advice earlier. But instead of feeling exposed, I felt safe. William moved with practiced ease, and being in his arms felt surprisingly natural. "Your sister is watching," he murmured. "I know," I said. "She looks like she sips about to explode." Mission accomplished. I looked up at this stranger, who with one simple gesture had given me back my dignity, almost because then Lydia appeared. "Mind if I cut in?" she asked, appearing with Richard at her side. Her wedding smile was stretched tight, calculation in her eyes. "Actually, yes," William replied politely, but firmly. We set her having a moment. Lydia's face flickered through emotions before settling into forced brightness. "Of course, I just wanted to say how happy I am that Hannah finally found someone. We were all so worried about her." "Were you?" William asked, his tone calm but his gaze sharp. "Because from what I seen tonight, it seems like you been more focused on broadcasting her single status than supporting her." The directness left Lydia speechless. Richard shifted uncomfortably beside her, sensing tension but not understanding it. We just want what's best for Hannah," Lydia stammered, her composure cracking. "Then maybe treat her with the respect she deserves," William said evenly, "instead of turning her into entertainment for your guests." I had never seen Lydia look so rattled. Her perfect wedding confidence was gone, and for the first time that evening, she was the one who looked small. "I don't know what Hannah told you," Lydia began. "She didn't have to tell me anything." William cut in. "I have eyes. I can see how you treated her all evening." Richard finally stepped in, clearly uneasy with the public confrontation. "Maybe we should let them get back to dancing." As they walked away, Lydia's composure was gone. I could see her whispering frantically to Marion, likely trying to figure out who William was and how I had ended up with someone so far out of her expectations. "That felt really good," I admitted as we kept dancing. "We're not done yet," William said with a smile that made my heart skip. For the rest of the night, he made sure I was never left alone. During dinner, he requested we be moved to a better table, saying it was due to dietary restrictions. The staff, recognizing Richard's family, quickly agreed. Our new table was front and center, where everyone could see us laughing and talking like a real couple. Lydia's friends, who had ignored me earlier, suddenly wanted to meet William. Richard's relatives, who had pitied me before, now treated me with respect and curiosity about the mystery boyfriend. Even Mrs. Wellington, who had suggested church groups earlier, now wanted to know all about William's family. When she learned he was a successful tech entrepreneur with an MBA from Harvard, her attitude shifted completely. "Hannah, you surprise us," she said with admiration. "You never mentioned someone so accomplished." But the final moment of payback came during the garter toss. When Richard prepared to throw it to the single men, William stepped forward confidently. "Wait," Lydia called out. "William, you her not single." He looked at me, then back at her with a calm smile. "Actually, I am. Hannah and I are taking things slow, reconnecting." The garter landed directly in his hands. Whether by chance or design, I'll never know. But the symbolism wasn't lost on anyone, especially Lydia. By tradition, the man with the garter was supposed to place it on the woman who caught the bouquet. But Chloe, Richard's cousin, had already left. "Looks like we need a volunteer," the DJ announced. William looked at me for approval. I nodded. The crowd cheered as I sat down, and he knelt to slide the garter onto my leg with surprising gentleness. For something that began as an act, the moment felt personal, even real. Lydia's expression was a mask of fury as she watched her pathetic single sister become the center of positive attention at her own wedding. As the night wound down and guests departed, William walked me to my car. Away from watchful eyes, I finally said, "Thank you. I know tonight was just an act, but you saved me from the most humiliating experience of my life." "What makes you think it was just an act?" he asked seriously. My heart skipped. "Because you don't even know me." "I know enough," he replied, stepping closer. "I know you stepper kind, even when people don't deserve it. I know you stepper strong enough to endure humiliation without lashing out. I know you stepper beautiful inside and out. And I know your sister is wrong not to see your value." This time my tears weren't set from shame. "I know this started as a rescue," he continued. "But somewhere along the way, it stopped being pretend." He handed me his business card, his personal number written on the back. "If you want to see me again, not for revenge, not to prove a point, but just because you want to call me." I took the card with shaking hands. "What if I want to call you tonight?" He smiled, that same confident smile that first caught my attention. "Then I still answer." 3 months later, William and I were officially dating. 6 months after that, we moved in together, and exactly 1 year after Lydia's wedding, he proposed at the same hotel where we first met. Lydia's reaction to our engagement announcement was everything I expected. The sister who spent years making me feel inadequate now had to watch me plan a wedding with a man who adored me and came from an even wealthier family than Richard. But the true revenge wasn't proving her wrong. It was realizing I no longer needed her validation. William's respect and genuine love showed me what I deserved, and I would never settle for less again. Our wedding was smaller than Lydia's, but filled with real joy. We celebrated with people who sincerely wished us happiness. Lydia gave a speech as my maid of honor, insisting on the role despite our history. She talked about how happy she was for me, how William was perfect, and how she always knew I'd find someone special. The revisionist history was striking, but it didn't matter. I no longer cared about her approval. I had something more valuable, someone who had seen my worth from the start. Looking back, Lydia's wedding was the hardest night of my life. Her cruelty showed me how I had allowed others to treat me, but it also led me to William. Without that humiliation, I might never have accepted help from a stranger. Sometimes the people who hurt us the most set the stage for our greatest blessings. Lydia tried to make me feel small, but in the process, she created the circumstances for me to meet the love of my life. The irony is undeniable. In trying to prove I was unlovable, she led me straight to someone who showed me exactly the opposite. If this story reminded you that the best revenge is living well, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of karma and unexpected love. Have you ever seen cruelty backfire in surprising ways? Share your story in the comments. Sometimes the universe has a sense of humor, and sometimes that humor leads to happily ever after.